All right, so I think we should start now, right? I hope I'm audible clearly and you can see my screen, right? My screen is visible, right? Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. All right. So let's now continue, right, from our previous discussion. So day before yesterday, we were discussing on front-end technologies, right? We completed with JavaScript along with some advanced concepts of JavaScript, right? ES6 features. So today's agenda is we are going to start with document object model, right? We'll first see what document object model is, how helpful it is. Then we'll also do the same thing with jQuery. Whatever we are going to do with document object model, we'll see how to do the same thing using jQuery, right? It provides some easiness. So we'll see how. And after that, if time allows, then we are going to do this activity. And after that, we'll also introduce asynchronous JavaScript, right? We'll first of all discuss JavaScript is synchronous or asynchronous, right? So we'll discuss about that. And after that, we'll introduce Bootstrap, right? Sorry. So we'll introduce Bootstrap, how you can integrate Bootstrap in your front-end applications, right? And finally, we'll start with React.js, where first we'll see what React is, why you should use React, because we already have JavaScript, right? What was the need of introducing React.js library? So we'll discuss that. After that, we are going to create 4 activities, right? These 3 activities are small activities, right? Where you are going to learn some of the concepts of React while building something small, right? Some small assignments. And this activity, last activity, will be our application advice application, where we'll see how you can fetch the data from an API, right? And how you can display that data into your DOM, document object model, into UI, right? And along the way, we'll learn this concept. So in React, we are mainly following the approach of learn by doing, right? So we are doing something. All these are activities. We are doing something, and along with that, we'll learn the concepts of React. Okay. So this is what the agenda of today's entire day, right? For morning session as well as for afternoon session. Fine. So now let's start with document object model. Okay. Now, first thing is, what is document object model? Right? So document object model is nothing but a tree-like structure. Right? It is nothing but a tree-like structure where we can represent all our HTML element. Right? You can see the example in the right hand side of the screen. This is nothing but a DOM tree, document object model tree. And if you observe, there are HTML elements here, right? So what happens is when you render your page, when browser renders your page, it creates a document object model of that HTML. What browser do? Browser just paints the HTML that we give to it, right? So when we give HTML to it, it creates a document object model out of it, right? Where each node in tree, there will be nodes, right? So this is a tree. This structure you can see on the screen. This is a tree structure, right? So each element is a node of this document object model tree, right? And the benefit is that here each node is nothing but a JavaScript object, right? That means each HTML element is now JavaScript object. If it is JavaScript object, you can manipulate your HTML elements using JavaScript, right? You can achieve dynamic nature in the website, right? Based on user action, if you want to change the behavior of element, right? For example, if user select this particular option, the paragraph content should be this. If user select that particular option, the paragraph should be that, right? So based on user action, now you can modify your UI. How? Because of document object model, because each element is a JavaScript object here, and you can modify object, right? If we don't use document object model and if we simply use HTML, we cannot do this conditional rendering. We cannot add dynamic nature, right? So this is why document object model is helpful. Okay. Here we are going to see how you can manipulate HTML as well as CSS. Yes, using document object model along with HTML, you can also manipulate CSS, right? So we'll see both, how we can do both the things, right? And once we start with React, we will never directly touch document object model, but why and how, that we are going to see there, right? So let's first focus on document object model, right? I hope my VS Code window is visible to all, right? So first we will see how you can select the element using document object model. Okay? Because see what we are trying to do with document object model, we want to manipulate HTML, we want to manipulate CSS, right? So uh, to manipulate them, we first need to select them. It is just like in CSS, to style some element, first we need to select that element. And how we select that element? Using selector, right? So similarly here, we need to first select the element. Then only we can do some modification. Then only we can do something, right? So following the same approach, let's first select the elements, right? So here I will create one new HTML file called DOM-tut. DOM stands for document object model. So first I will generate the basic HTML. And here in the body, let's say I have one paragraph, right? And I'll name it as this is a paragraph. Okay, this is one paragraph. Now let's write JavaScript. Okay, now see, this document object model is created by browser. Document object model is created by browser. So we cannot use this on the Node.js, right? So far, what we were doing, we were running our JavaScript on Node.js, right, in our local system. But document object model is specific to browser, right? So now we are going to utilize browser. Fine. Now, this JavaScript that I'm going to write, either you can write it here internally or you can create one new file. But we are going to write very small piece of code, right? So let's write in the same file. Okay. So in the script tag, now I'm going to write my JavaScript. Okay. So what is the first task that we want to do? We want to first select the element. After selecting the element, we'll do the DOM manipulation. So right now we have this paragraph. Now, how can we select this paragraph? So for that, we have one method called document.querySelector. This is the method that we are going to use. Now, what is this document? Document is the root of your document object model tree, right? For example, this is your document object model tree. Okay. First, you have HTML. Inside HTML, we have head and body, right? In the head, we have title. I'm just trying to mimic the document object model tree. And inside body, you have one paragraph. Along with paragraph, you have some H2 and image as well. So this is what? This is the document object model tree. But this is not complete. You have one root node here. and the root node is called as document, right? So your tree now will look like this. Parent is document, then HTML, inside that head and body. Inside head we have title, body here. And yes, one more thing, comment is also an HTML element. Sorry, comment is also a node of document object model tree, right? So for example, in this paragraph, you wrote one comment. So comment will also be a node, not just comment, whatever text you write. For example, in this paragraph, you have, this is paragraph, right? So that is a text node. That is what? That is a text node. So along with elements, text and comments are also separate nodes. Remember this. Fine. Now, there are so many methods that are defined by JavaScript on this document object, right? Each element is an object, right? So on this document, let me first comment this. So on this document, we have a method called query selector, right? And here, as an argument, we pass the selector of the element. So this is paragraph, right? This is element P. So we can target this element. We can select this element directly by the element name, like this. If this element has some class, for example, class para. So what you can do, you can write dot para here, as simple as that. Okay, so this is how you can select a element. There are other ways also. For example, document.getElement by ID. If this P contains ID, you can call that method, right? Get elements by tag name, get elements by class name. But those works only for one purpose, either for ID, either for tag name, or either for class name. This query selector method works for all your selectors. Whatever selector you are using, you can just write the selector here. So which is better option? Of course, query selector is the better option, right? So let's use query selector. Now I selected this particular element, right? Now I can store this element in one variable. So for example, let para is equal to this method. Okay, if I want to print this, I can print this as well. For example, console log of para. Let's run this. So this is HTML file. We can run this with live server. So see here, this is paragraph is coming. And if we open console and if you just refresh, you can see the paragraph is printed here. So see, using JavaScript, we are selecting the elements. I think someone is on unmute. Poonam ma'am, can you please mute yourself? Okay. Right. So we successfully selected the element. What is the next step? Next step is to manipulate HTML as well as CSS. That is called as DOM manipulation. So now I will comment this console log of para. I don't want to console it out. I just wanted to show you that how it looks, right? You can console it out because this paragraph is now an object. It is no more HTML element only. It is an object, right? That is why using JavaScript, we can be able to print it in the console. Fine. Now, on this para, let's say you want to change the text content. So what you can write? Paragraph, that means para dot text content. And let's say I want to change it to updated paragraph. So this you can do. If we see the output, you can see the text is changed. Updated paragraph. Right? Faculties, please mute yourself. Urvashi ma'am, you are on unmute. Yes, let's continue. So see, using JavaScript methods, this text content is nothing but a property. So using JavaScript property, we are manipulating HTML. Right? Now, let's say in this paragraph, you want some other HTML tag. That also you can do. So I can write para.inner HTML. Right? Inner HTML is again one property. So para.inner HTML, and here, for example, strong tag. Okay, so inside strong tag, let's say updated paragraph with some importance. Strong tag adds importance to your content, right? So I just wrote updated paragraph with some importance. So see, now my paragraph is bold. It is using strong tag. So using inner HTML property, you can also write HTML tag, and it is actually going to get those effects, right? Now let's see how you can manipulate the CSS, right? Right now we have, this is a paragraph. That means the default text, right? Which we've specified using HTML. So basically we have hard coded this paragraph content, right? So this is the current content, and let's say you want to add background color to it. So you can do that. For example, you can write paragraph.style. Paragraph.style. Style is the property you can use to add CSS. So paragraph.style. Now which CSS property you want to use? So I want to use background color. So I will change that property. First on para, I wrote style. Now on style, I'm going to write background color. So I'm changing the properties, right? So para.style.background color. Right? In CSS, how we write background color? We write like this. But in JavaScript, all the CSS properties having multiple words, right? Two or more words, they can be written as camel casing. So background color, you cannot write like this, but you must write like this using camel casing convention. So para.background color is equal to, and then you can write the name of the color. Let's say you want green, yellow. You can write like this. Or you can write here RGB value, hexadecimal value, that is up to you. Right? So you can see now we are also changing the style. Right? So I hope you understood how we can do the basic DOM manipulation. Right? When we learn React, we are not going to manipulate the DOM this way. This way is not preferred at all, but we'll see there. Right? Now, before React, we were using more jQuery. Right? So whatever stuff we did using pure DOM manipulation, let's see how you can do using React, using jQuery. So what I will do, I'll open that jQuery file also. Here I wrote the same thing. See, same paragraph and same button, but button thing. Okay, let's first see the event also, and then we will compare DOM manipulation, pure DOM, and then jQuery, right? So the next thing before jQuery I want to show you is event handling. How you can handle the event, right? So for example, let's say we have one button and the title of the button will be click me, and let's give it a ID. Although it is not necessary as we have only one button in the file, but still, right? Now on this button, I want to handle an event. That means when user clicks on this button, something should happen. See, button is created here, but right now if I'm clicking it, nothing is happening. right? So for that event handling on this button, what is the first step? First step is to again select this element. Without selecting, we cannot do anything, right? So let's first select the element. So let me write the variable btn. Let btn. How to select? Using query selector. So document dot query selector. There is one more method, query selector all, right? So query selector select only the first matching element. For example, if you have paragraph with class para, there are 5 such paragraphs. So it selects only one. But if you use query selector all, that means you get all the paragraphs. But right now, query selector all is not needed. So we'll go with query selector as we have only one element. So document dot query selector, and what will be the selector? This time ID. So I will write hash btn. Okay. So button is selected. Now what we can do, we can handle the event on this. So for that, we have one method. We have one method which is add event listener. So on this btn, I'm going to call add event listener method, right? So I call this method. Now, as this is the method, there will be some arguments, right? So add event listener method takes two arguments. It takes two arguments. First is the event. Which event you want to handle on this button? So I want to handle click event. There are so many events, right? There are mouse events, there are keyboard events, there are so many events, right? Like mouse over, mouse out, mouse up, down, key up. So many events are there. But same way you can handle all of them, right? So we are going to take an example of click event, which is the most used event. But for other events also, you can follow the same syntax, right? Same manner. So click event that we are going to handle. Now, second argument. Second argument is a function, right? It takes entire function. Remember in the for each method and map method, there also the argument was a function. And if function is an argument, that means that function is called as callback function. So here also the second argument is callback function, and I'm going to write arrow function. You can also write anonymous function here. I'm going to write arrow function, or traditional function will also work here, right? Now, why we write this function? So see, whenever click event gets fired, whenever user clicks on the button, this function will get called. We are not going to call this function. JavaScript is going to call this function. And when it will call? When click event gets fired. Right? So in this function, what we are going to write, that whenever user clicks on a button, what should happen? That we are going to write in this method. Right? So when user clicks, I just want to print in the console that hello. And I just want to print hello when user clicks on the button. Whatever you want to do, you can write it in this function body, right? So let's now see the output. Let's quickly refresh this and let me open the console as well. So this is the console, and now I'm going to click on this button. So see, when I click, you can see in the console, hello is getting printed. If I click again, second time hello is printed. Right? So this is how you can handle event using DOM manipulation. Right? Now what we will do, we'll do the same thing using jQuery. Right? So you can compare how the same thing can be done with jQuery. So I'll open both these files side by side and I'll explain you the difference. So let me open this VS Code with two columns, and now you can see both the files side by side. See, in this jQuery and in this DOM manipulation file, HTML is same. There is one paragraph, right? And there is one button, right? Now, for jQuery, first step is how to include, because now we are using jQuery library, right? So let's first see how you can include this library. right? So for that, you can use two ways. Either you can download the jQuery file from the website and you can attach that script here in the HTML file using script tag, right? And the second and more preferred way is to use CDN, Content Delivery Network. That means you just get the URL of the jQuery, right? And it will fetch the jQuery code. It will use the jQuery code, which is kept at the server of the jQuery, right? So we are going to use the second way, CDN way. So CDN provides you just a link, and this is that link, right? So what I did in the head, I just included this script tag, and that's all you need to do to include jQuery. And this is the better option. No need to download anything and then use it, right? Why to waste those memory in our system, right? Better we can use this. Also, there are some updates or bug fixes or anything. It's easier to manage if you are using CDN instead of downloading the file, right? Okay. So this script I can share with you in the chat if you are following along with me. If you are also doing this hands-on with me, you can uh, use this. Thank you, Tapasa, for the feedback. Okay, fine. So jQuery is now included. Okay. And here in the body, at the end of body, we are going to write our own JavaScript, that is jQuery code. Right now, we write jQuery code. We prefer, actually, that is not compulsion. So we write jQuery code inside this particular function, document.ready function. Right? Again, I repeat, this is not compulsion, right? But we do it for a good practice. And what is the reason behind this is this function basically ensures that whatever JavaScript code that you are going to write, whatever jQuery code that you are going to write, that should execute once your body is loaded entirely, once your HTML is rendered entirely, then only this function should run. And that is why we write the script tag in the head tag, and that works just fine because this function is ensuring that jQuery will run after this entire content gets rendered into the browser, right? So we write this particular function. Dollar sign represents object in the jQuery, and sometimes it is a function. We'll see how you can use dollar sign. But see, here it is a function. See, dollar is a function and document you are passing as an argument. Document is the object that we used in the DOM manipulation. This is the same object, right? So dollar document dot ready. And this function takes a callback function. See, ready function takes document.ready function takes a callback function. That means an entire function. And here I'm not using callback function. You can use callback function also. But just to show you that you can use anonymous function also, I wrote it like this, right? And in this function, what you are going to write, whatever jQuery code you want to write, that you can write it in this particular callback function. Entire code you can write in just one single callback function. Right? So that is the preferred way we write jQuery with. Now I will uncomment everything. So see, whatever I did using DOM manipulation, the same thing I'm doing here. Right? So what is the first step? First step is to select the element. Now in jQuery, you can use dollar function, this dollar sign. This is now acting as a function. Right? There will be some cases there dollar will be an object. Right? But here dollar is a function and dollar function is used to select an element. Right? Here also we were selecting entire document. And right now we are selecting an HTML element. And if you are selecting HTML element, that argument should be in the double quotes. Right? So see, $P. Now I'm selecting using paragraph tag element only. Right? And I'm not writing any default content here. let's directly set the content using JavaScript, using jQuery. And for that, I'm using a method called text method. Text method. There we were using text content. Here we have a shorter version of that, which is text. Right. So $p dot text, and whatever text you want to set, you can set it here. Right. If you want me to run this file as well, I can do that. I'll quickly run this file. This is again an HTML file. So let's open this with live server only and see text for para. So we set this text using JavaScript directly this time. Now, again, there we used inner HTML, right? So the similar method we have here is HTML. That was inner HTML. Here we have HTML. Uh, just a second, faculty. I'm getting an important call. For that, let's continue. Yes, I was talking about that inner HTML. Here, HTML is basically mimicking that inner HTML thing, right? So see, in the .html, in the HTML method, I'm passing the same things with strong tag, right? And to add style in CSS, the adding style sheet is very easy with jQuery. See, you can use CSS method, right? So see, you are using CSS method and you can pass CSS key values, right? Or property value pairs just like this, separated by comma, right? So this is background color separated by hyphen. Here there is no camel casing. Here you can use the same CSS property that you used to use in pure CSS, right? So background color blue. If we run this, let's run this and see, right? And now for event handling, event handling is also a bit simpler than pure DOM, right? Obviously, it is going to be simpler, right? Because library is for that only. Before starting React, I'll explain in detail what exactly library and a framework is. Okay. So see, first we are selecting the button. Okay. And then instead of event listener, add event listener, here you can use the function on, right? And whatever argument that you were passing in the add event listener, you can directly pass in the on function. Okay. So this way you can do the same thing that you were doing with the pure DOM manipulation, right? But again, I will repeat that now we have React.js, right? Now we have AngularJS. So we generally don't do DOM manipulation this way directly, right? Specifically, if you talk about React, you should not do it like this. There is one special syntax called JSX. We'll cover that as well, right? But pure using pure DOM manipulation and using jQuery also you can do the similar stuff. But of course, in React we are going to do the more stuff. Okay, fine. So we completed DOM manipulation and we completed jQuery part. Now, before this activity will do if we get some extra time. Okay. Otherwise, we'll focus on some other important things. So let's first discuss asynchronous JavaScript. Right? Just a second. Okay, sorry again. JavaScript. Now, before starting, I would like to know from you that is JavaScript synchronous or asynchronous? What is the nature of JavaScript? Is it synchronous or asynchronous? Any idea, anyone? Is JavaScript synchronous or asynchronous? Synchronous. Okay. Any other answers? Anyone? Okay, correct, Urvashi ma'am. JavaScript is a synchronous language. JavaScript is synchronous language, not asynchronous. Right? Then why we heard that async JavaScript, asynchronous JavaScript, Ajax, right? Why we heard these things? For front-end development, why are there so much to learn like JavaScript, jQuery, React? So what's the relationship between them? No, Kiran, ma'am, we don't need to learn all these things. We don't need to learn jQuery. We don't need to master DOM manipulation because we have React. What is the use of React? It is providing easiness, right? But React is built on top of JavaScript. That means we must know JavaScript, right? And at a good level, we should know JavaScript. Then only we can understand React, right? That is why, see, for jQuery and for DOM manipulation, did we go in depth? No, I just introduced it. Right? Because now we have React. So everything we are going to do is with React. But just for introduction, I used React. I used jQuery. Fine? Clear, ma'am? Yes, Kiran ma'am. React can do all the stuff and in a much better way. Right? I will explain you in the introduction of React why exactly we are using React. Right? Because we already have JavaScript. We already have jQuery. What is the need of React? Right? So we'll explain this very clearly. Right? And after that, if you guys still have any doubts, feel free to ask me. Okay. Okay, fine. So yes, we are talking about synchronous and asynchronous JavaScript. So yes, correct, Urvashi. JavaScript is synchronous language. Then why we heard Ajax? Why we heard asynchronous JavaScript? Then what is that? Anyone? Okay, so what happens is JavaScript is synchronous by nature, right? But you can also achieve asynchronous nature with JavaScript, right? Before understanding how, let's first understand what exactly asynchronous nature is and what exactly synchronous nature is, right? So for that, I will create one new file called asyncjs.js, right? And let's say I have one console log of 1, right? Okay. Then console log of 2, then console log of 3. Now, JavaScript is synchronous, right? And along with synchronous, it is single threaded. I repeat, JavaScript is synchronous, single threaded language. Now, what does that mean? That means whatever lines of code you write, that will be executed one by one, right? And in which order? In a specific order, top to bottom. That is what the meaning of synchronous single threaded, right? One execution at a time and in a specific order. That means synchronous single threaded. Okay, so if I run this, No doubt I'll be getting 1, 2, and 3. But there will be some operation, right? For example, some network request. For example, some file management, right? For example, using JavaScript, you are accessing file from your local computer. For example, using JavaScript, you are making a fetch API request. That means you are going to get the data from a external servers, and our external servers in our control? No, right? So what happens? Sometimes this kind of request takes time. If I'm initiating request to get data from an external API, right? So there might be chances that the server is running low, running slow, right? There might be chances that there are some issues on the server which is not in our control, right? So we cannot afford this slow execution, right? Because if server is slow, obviously we are going to get the data after waiting for some time, after some amount of time, right? So it is ideal situation. It is, convenient situation. No, that is not, right? And these kind of operations, which takes some, extra time, right? Some more time, longer time. Those operations are called as asynchronous operation, right? For example, after this console log of 2, let's say here we are getting data from an API. So let's say get data function we are calling here. And this function is getting data from an API, right? For example, this is taking 1 second. It will not take 1 second. Just for example, let's say this function, this particular line takes 1 second to execute. The second line again takes 1 second to execute. Now, this function is getting the data in, let's say, 120 seconds, in 2 minutes. So what will happen? Using synchronous behavior, what will happen? This console log of 3 also need to wait for 2 minutes extra without any reason. What is the fault of this console log of 3? This function is taking time to execute. This line is taking time to execute. What is the fault of console log of 3? But still it needs to wait for 2 extra minutes. So to deal with this particular situation, asynchronous JavaScript came into the picture. Right? Now, before explaining asynchronous JavaScript, I'll give you one task. I will give you one task. How many of you have heard about set timeout function? Yes, how many of you have heard about set timeout function? Anyone? Okay, no worries. I'll explain it. Okay. So see, here I'm writing set timeout function. And this function again takes a callback function as an argument, right? So this is my callback function. And the second argument is the time. For example, 2000. And this 2000 is nothing but milliseconds, right? 2000 milliseconds simply means 2 seconds, right? So what set timeout does, it runs the particular code after some specified amount of time. So we are specifying 2 seconds. So after 2 seconds, it will run this particular callback function. After 2 seconds, we are executing this callback function, right? And what I want to do after 2 seconds, I just want to print 3. I just want to print 3, and here I will print 4. Now, which console log statement will run in which order? That is your task. That means this is our first console statement. This is our second console statement. This is third console statement, and this is fourth console statement. Now, what do you think the output will be? It will be 1, 2, 3, 4. It will be 1, 2, 4, 3. It will be 3, 1, 2, 4. Right? What do you think is the answer? You need to write it in the chat. Then I will explain. Okay. Whatever you think that should be the answer, that you can write in the chat. There are 4 console statements. The question is in which order they will be printed. Okay, you can see the code carefully and you can type in your answer. Right, I'll wait for 1 minute. Okay, you guys have 1 minute. Think about it and you can guess the answer. Uh, what, Kiran ma'am? This code, I can share it in the chat. Okay, so I can see responses 1, 2, 4, and 3, and which is absolutely correct. Which is absolutely correct. So, but what does that mean? Before that, let's run this. So see, 1, 2, 4, and you notice something? After 1 to 4, there was a pause of 2 seconds, and then 3 was printed. See, set timeout. What is set timeout doing? It will wait for 2 seconds and then it will execute whatever you write in this callback function. That is printing 3. Notice again, I'm going to run this again. See, 1 to 4 printed. Yes, after 2 seconds, 3 is getting printed. So what is happening here? This is what representing asynchronous nature, right? Because now this set timeout function will take some longer time, right? 2 seconds. So why should this console log of 4 wait for extra 2 seconds? So what it is doing, it is first printing this 4 and then it is printing, then it is running this set timeout function. Right? So what does that mean? That means set timeout function is an asynchronous function. Set timeout function is an asynchronous function. Right? Now, this set timeout function is not part of core JavaScript. It is part of browser API. What is browser API? So browser is the tool that provides us some asynchronous functions. Right? And whatever functions browser provides, those functions we call them as APIs. Right? So set timeout is provided by browser. Right? So now how we are achieving this asynchronous behavior? Because of browser. Right? Originally JavaScript is synchronous, but browser helps JavaScript to achieve asynchronous operation. So what happens here? Whenever JavaScript is running line by line, right? JavaScript engine is running code line by line because it is synchronous in nature and single threaded, of course. So what will happen here? JavaScript engine executes 1, 2, then it finds that here is a browser API. Here is an asynchronous operation. So what it will do? JavaScript engine will give this particular function to browser. That, hey, browser, you execute this function, you take care of this function, you just give me the output after running this function. And what browser will do, yes, before that, let's first complete this. So JavaScript engine gave this particular function, it basically handed over this function to browser, and now it is free to run the next line. That is why we first get 1, 2, and 4. And in the background, what browser will do? Browser will execute this set timeout function. So browser will wait for 2 seconds. And after 2 seconds, we get this console log of 3. So what browser will do? Browser will say, hey, JavaScript engine, I completed the set timeout execution. I waited for 2 seconds. And here is your output. Which is the output? Console log of 3. Right? And then JavaScript engine says, okay, let me print this console log of 3 to the console, and that is why we get 3 at the end. Understood this process, or should I repeat again? No worries, no worries. Let me know in case you find any doubts or any difficulties, okay? Or whatever you missed, I request you to please go through the recording once. Yes. Sorry. Okay. So Kiran ma'am, yes, it is absolutely consistent. Right? See, we can write our own asynchronous operation also with JavaScript. But if browser is already providing something, why shouldn't we use it? Right? And as JavaScript is, as browser is providing, Node.js is also one runtime environment of JavaScript. Right? So it is also going to provide. Right? Remember, I told you that there will be some specific features that will be, unique in browser and unique in Node.js. So these are those functions. Right? And again, there will be some common functions also. For example, set timeout is also there in Node.js. Right? So definitely you can use those functions. Yes, yes, it will work in all browsers. It will work in all browsers. Right? But yes, there is somewhat of browser dependency also. But as far as we are using, modern browsers, there will not be any issues. Right? But still, if you are using, Internet Explorer or those, older browsers, I think that is not in the market right now, Internet Explorer. But yes, there are some browsers which may create issues because see, every browser has different JavaScript engine, right? Chrome has V8 engine, Mozilla has its different, right? But they are quite similar, so there won't be much, differences between them. And again, about this APIs, again, there will be almost same in all the browser. Yes. See, Kiran ma'am, all the updates are backward compatible only, right? So whatever modern browser that we are using, for example, if you are using Chrome's current version, so whatever code you are writing today, it will work in the next V8 update, in the next Chrome update as well, right? So all the things that we are writing now that are backward compatible. I'm talking about a very old browsers. Then there might be some issue, but of course we are not using very much old things, right? So no issues at all. Okay, fine. Okay, so this was asynchronous JavaScript, and I hope you understood. Now, if you notice something, can you relate something that we are writing here callback function? See, here we are writing callback function that is going to run after some task. And here after waiting for 2000 seconds, 2000 milliseconds. Right? And remember the same callback function we wrote in case of add event listener. Remember, there also there was similar nature. What was happening? After click event is fired, then callback function was getting executed. But that means after some process is done, after some operation is done, then callback function executes. And here also, after 2000 second passes, milliseconds, then that callback function is going to run. Right? So this is what how we handle asynchronous operations. Right? That is how we handle asynchronous operations. Right? For example, let's say we are initiating fetch request. Right? We want to get data from an external API. Right? So this fetching data is an asynchronous operation. Right? But what if it successfully fetches the data? After that, what? That we write in the callback function. That after 2000 milliseconds, what? After click event is fired, then what? That what part we write in the callback function. That is what the use of callback function is, to handle asynchronous operations. right? So after that asynchronous operations finishes, what you want to do? That is what we are going to handle it using callback function. But with modern JavaScript, with newer updates of JavaScript, we are not using callback function to handle asynchronous operations. We are still using so at so many places, but let's say there are so many callbacks. That means function inside function, inside function, inside function. There are so many callbacks nested inside them. So at that time, your code will look bit complex, right? So there is a better way to handle asynchronous operation in such situation. And that way is promise. I will explain you promise when we will actually fetch the data from server in the React application, right? But callback also you are going to use at so many places. It is very handy, right? You will be using at so many places. So now you understood why we are using callback function. Right now, I was just introducing as, function which is passed as an argument to another function. That is what we were utilizing right now. We were understanding right now. But now you understood why exactly we are using callback function. Why? To handle asynchronous operation. Whenever asynchronous task gets completed, then what you need to do? That you specify in the callback function. Right? Sorry. So I hope everything is clear. On my screen, Teams is open. Can you see the Teams screen? Microsoft Teams. So this is what we needed to cover under asynchronous JavaScript. Right? Now, let me also quickly guide you with Bootstrap. It's very easy to use, so it will not take much time, right? So let's quickly see how Bootstrap works and how you can use Bootstrap. My screen is visible or not? Can you see my screen? My VS Code is open now. Can you see it? Let me share it again. Okay, cool. Let me share it again. Okay. So see, I just searched for Bootstrap in Google and I will open the first link. Now, whenever you work with Bootstrap, you should always open Bootstrap official documentation. No need to remember, no need to mug up anything. Everything you are going to get from this Bootstrap website. Right? Now, to understand this, I'll create one new file called bootstrap.html. Now, what is Bootstrap? Bootstrap is a front-end framework, right? Now, see, in front-end also we have two parts. One is look and second is feel, right? So Bootstrap deals with look part, right? So Bootstrap is more focused on styling, CSS part, and the library and framework like React and Angular. Those are also JavaScript frameworks, but they are focused on feel part, interaction part, behavior part, right? So let's explore Bootstrap. And first thing is we are going to include this Bootstrap in this HTML file. So as jQuery had, here also there are two options. One is either you can download the Bootstrap files and you can attach it using link and script tag, because there will be CSS and JavaScript, both files. And second option, the better way is CDN. So let's do using CDN. So here I'll go to this documentations. And here in the quick start, you can see include Bootstrap and JavaScript. So see here link is attached. This is Bootstrap CDN for CSS. And this script tag here, this is Bootstrap CDN for JavaScript. So I will copy this to clipboard and I will paste this here. So let me remove this. No need to write this because I already have this things. So see, this is the link tag for CSS and this is script tag for JavaScript. And there is H1 with hello world. Let's run this. So see, now this hello world is styled using Bootstrap. If I comment this particular link and script of Bootstrap, you will see hello world in different style. See, now it is different. This is the default style that browser provides. Without Bootstrap, we are displaying it. But if we attach Bootstrap, you will see Bootstrap has predefined default style for each HTML element. And for H1, you can see this is the style. Bootstrap removed the margin and padding also. See, there were some default margin padding by browser. So it removed that as well. And of course, some font style and font weight is also different. Right. So this is how you can include Bootstrap. After including Bootstrap, first thing is components. See, Bootstrap basically contains only three things. One is component, second is utilities, and third is grid. Right? So, and it is more about copy pasting the things. So I'll not spend much time on this. Instead, we'll focus more on React. So see, here in the left hand side panel, if you scroll down, you will see components option here, components tab. And there are so many components, for example, accordion, alerts, button, navigation bar, so many things. Right? So for example, you want to have nav bar, navigation bar. So you will find nav bar here. Click on that. And here, see, this is one navigation bar. This is second one. There are so many different variants. See, this is one. So many navigation bars are there. Let me take the first one, this one, this navigation bar I want for my website. So what you need to do, you just need to copy this HTML. That's all you need to do. Right? So I will just copy this to clipboard, and in my HTML file in the body, I'll get rid of this h1 hello world, and instead I will paste that Bootstrap navigation bar code. Yes, if you see the output, see, my website has now that particular navigation bar. Right? There is one drop down and everything is working. Everything is working with functionalities. Bootstrap also has JavaScript. It focuses more on look part, but it still has behavior and interactivity using JavaScript. Right? Now you can edit this navbar using this code. Right? For example, in this navbar, you want to write my website. You can write. So this is how you can modify this. See, now it became my website. Right? And what is the main advantage here is this is responsive. See, if I reduce the width, you will see this button got changed. Hamburger menu appeared here instead of those buttons. And if I open this, you will see those options in the form of now a drop down kind of, right? So this is responsive. Responsive means on all device width. That means if you are running this website on mobile, on laptop, on big monitors, for every screen size, it is going to adjust itself, and user will get a good UI experience, right? User experience, UX it is called. Fine. Right, so you can explore these components. There is nothing to explain here. If you want to have card, you can see this is one card that you can use. This is second card that you can use. This is without image, right? So you got the point. Now, second thing is utility classes. This is very helpful. See, Bootstrap is all about classes, right? For everything you have Bootstrap class. You just need to add that class, right? And all the styles which are written in that class will be applied. So see here, there will be utilities. See here, utilities. There are so many utility classes for some common use cases. For example, adding background color, adding margin, adding padding, right? For example, I go to background. So see, for background color, you just need to add the class as BG primary for this blue color. you can see there are so many classes: BG secondary, BG success, BG danger, BG warning. Right? Let me show you one. That's why I told that no need to remember Bootstrap. Just keep Bootstrap documentation open while you are working with Bootstrap. So here again in HTML, after navbar, let's say we have one H1. This is H1. So here I will add the class. And what was the class? Dot BG primer. Let's see the output. And it is not getting applied. Let's. The class name is correct. Okay, I wrote dot here. Do we write dot here in front of class in HTML? No. By mistake, I wrote dot. So now it should work. And yes, it is working now. Right? There are so many for borders. Right? For example, you just need to write border, border top, border end, border bottom, border start, and it will add the default border style. Right? Border primary. This is for the border color. Border primary, border secondary. You can explore. Right? And finally, the third thing is grid. Grid is an important thing. Basically, it is used for responsiveness. So in the layout, you can see grid. Grid is one layout mode, remember? So here is the Bootstrap grid, right? So Bootstrap layout, we write it in the class container so that Bootstrap can handle it and it can make it responsive, right? So see, Bootstrap grid contains rows and columns, right? And each row can contain 12 columns. This is the limit. Each row can contain 12 columns, right? So see here in this class container, I have this row, and in this row, I have 3 columns. You can see the output also here, 3 columns. It can contain maximum 12 columns. It has space for 12 columns, right? And it is adjusting the size of each column automatically. See, it is getting the equal width to each column. Right? So basically here, each column is taking space of 4 column. 4, this also 4, this also 4. Make it 12. Right? And you can explore here some breakdown points. Right? For example, that on the mobile screen, you want in a row, there should be 2 columns. And on a laptop screen, you want that there should be 4 columns in one row. You want to modify like this. So for that, you have some breakpoints here, right? XS stands for extra small. This is for mobile devices. And what is the width for mobile devices? It is less than 576 pixel. Then you have small, which is between 576 and 768. Medium is between 768 and 992. Similarly, large, and extra, extra large. But how you can use this, that I'm going to show you now. So, yes, here it is. So see, on large devices, you want this particular column to have space of 2 columns. That means on the large device, this column will be having 2 column space size, right? And let me find the better example if you have any. Yes, on small size, this column should contain space of 8. This column should occupy 8 columns, space of 8 columns. And this div 4. So see, 8 plus 4 becomes 12, right? On smaller devices. If you want to specify for larger devices, you can just add col dash LG dash whatever column spaces you want, right? So this thing also you can explore, right? This is quite useful. right? Instead of using CSS grid, this is better option, right? Because here you just need to write the classes. Every responsiveness, everything is handled by Bootstrap. You don't need to write all those property names yourself. You just need to write the class name here, right? And also, you can skip, you can use this particular grid in place of Flexbox also. Because for most of the cases, no need to write using Flexbox. You can use Bootstrap grid directly. But still, there will be some cases where you must use Flexbox. If that is the case that you must use Flexbox, you can use Flexbox using Bootstrap also. See, in the utilities, and yes, one more thing, that Bootstrap grid also uses Flexbox behind the scene. That is also one fact, right? So ideally there won't be any cases that you cannot use Bootstrap grid and you must go with only Flexbox. Ideally that won't happen, but yes, if that is the case, you can use Flexbox properties using Bootstrap. See, in the utilities you have Flex, right? We were writing display flex property, so here you can directly write dflex class. Yes, you can use these things. There are so many things here, so many classes that you can explore, right? See, instead of writing entire justify content property manually, you can directly write justify content start, justify content end, right? So it is very useful, right? And companies also are using this, either Bootstrap, either Material UI. In React, we generally go with Material UI, but yes, Bootstrap also works just great, right? Then we have Tailwind CSS. So this kind of styling framework, each project definitely will be using, right? Either of any. It can be Bootstrap, Material UI, Tailwind CSS. Yes, that is definitely going to use. But there are no much things to understand here, right? We must keep this documentation open while working with Bootstrap. Okay, understood everything? Breakpoint just represent the width. For example, small breakpoints represent 576 pixel, right? LG breakpoint represent width maybe greater than 1000 around, right? So it just representing the width size. Once we have so many components, can we easily lay out these components? Yes, wherever you want to place this. This is nothing but HTML only. See, all components are nothing but HTML. So how you write HTML? You can just paste this component over there. Right? See, all are nothing but HTML. For example, if you open card, this is the code. This is nothing but HTML. This is HTML with some classes, and these classes are not written by us. That is the only difference. If you open carousel, right? See, this is carousel. And the code, you can directly copy it and you can paste it. No need to understand anything here. If you try to understand this, this is not that difficult. You can understand also, but most of the cases it is not required. Then you have buttons. See, again, this is primary button, secondary button, and see, all these are buttons are nothing but HTML element with some classes. Okay. Okay, I cannot see any other doubts. Okay, fine. So now let's do one thing. Now I'm going to share the attendance link with you. But before that, let's take one group photograph, right? So what are the other frameworks you mentioned using for using styling, right? I mentioned Bootstrap, I mentioned Material UI, and I mentioned Tailwind CSS. All these are going to provide similar kind of things, components, classes, right? Okay, faculties, please turn on your videos. We'll take one group photograph. Okay, okay. Now I will take the screenshot. Done, done. You can turn it off. And now I will share the attendance link in the chat. No problem, Rakesh sir. No issues. I pasted the attendance link. Thank you, Ram Babu sir, for this wonderful feedback. Okay, I shared the attendance link in the chat. We can wait for 2-3 minutes while you all are marking the attendance, but make sure you don't miss the attendance, right? You can mark it and you can type done. When I get maximum done in the chat, then we'll resume the session. And now finally, we'll start with React.js. The first and most important thing that we'll discuss is why we should use React. I see people use React, but some of them, most of them, they actually don't know. They just know that it is a library, so it is just providing some easiness, right? But that is not the only purpose of using React. There is one major purpose. I'll explain that. Yeah, sure, Kiran ma'am. Let me type it in the chat.
Kindly forward the attendance link again.
I'm sorry, ma'am, to interrupt, but your voice is breaking. I could not hear it clearly. Is it just for me or for others also? Ma'am, you can try speaking up again, or you can use chat box as well.
Is it audible?
Yes, it's better now.
Attendance link.
Okay, should I share it again?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, I shared it again. Please mark your attendance. Let's wait for 1 more minute. I can see so many done messages in the chat, but still some faculty members are marking their presence. So let's wait for a minute. Okay, what about others? Have you all marked your attendance? Shall we continue with the session? Okay, cool. So I'm sharing my screen again. Okay. So finally, we are starting with React, right? So first, let's understand what React is, right? So it is something which is based on JavaScript, right? But what it is it a library or a framework? Okay, before that, just answer me one question. How many of you have worked on React before? Even if basics of React, that is fine. You can mention yes in the chat. How many of you have worked on React before? Okay, even if you don't have worked uh, on React, that is perfectly fine. I'm going to start from scratch, but still I want to know how many of you have worked before. Okay, okay, cool. No worries. We'll learn it from scratch. Okay. So see, React is nothing but a JavaScript library. This is what a JavaScript library, right? Now there are two things. One is library and second is framework, right? Let me connect the whiteboard and then I will explain you better. Okay. See, this is a JavaScript library. Now, what is the difference between library and a framework? Have you heard of AngularJS? AngularJS is nothing but a framework based on JavaScript. Not exactly JavaScript, it is based on TypeScript, but yes, which is also part of JavaScript. So the difference is in library, first of all, library is a small file and the framework is a big file. That is the one difference, right? But what is the major difference is in library, we get so many functions for some small operations, for some small tasks, we get so many functions. But in case of framework, we get set of libraries. Right? Some people think that framework is all about, set of libraries, but that is not the case. Along with that set of libraries, we also get entire architecture. That means how you are supposed to create this particular project, that is also specified by a framework, right? So in framework, there are so many strict rules. It is very strict in nature, right? You must follow the particular file convention. You must name your component in this particular manner, right? You must, create the services for some particular purpose, right? You must structure your application in this particular project structure format. So there are so many strict rules. And if you don't follow, you cannot create application with a framework. But libraries are very flexible. There are no such rules. You can do whatever you want to do. This is what a major advantage of library is, right? But why do we have framework then? Because framework contains so many things already. Yes, that there is this disadvantage of following strict rules, but sometimes it is required also, right? And second thing is it provides so many things already, right? For example, in Angular, if we want to, write routing, if you want to use routing, there is built-in support of routing. But in case of React.js, there is no such extra tools. If you want to use routing, you cannot. React does not have routing tool. It is just a library, just like jQuery. It is just a library, right? So that is the major difference between a library and a framework. And React is a library, JavaScript library. But why React is then so popular if it does not have much things as compared to Angular? Why React is more popular? Because nowadays there are so many third-party libraries. Just like React, there are other third-party libraries that you can include in your React application, that you can include with your React library. That is why React is gaining so much popularity, which is in huge demand, because you can use these third-party libraries with React. And if you can use these third-party libraries with React, that means you can do so much stuff, so many stuff you can do with React. No need of Angular at all. Right? So this is why React is much popular, because see, whatever features you are getting in framework, same you are getting in React using third-party libraries. And also there is no strictness as we compare it with framework. Library, React library does not have any strictness. You can structure your code using your wish, right? So that is why it is more popular. But again, there may be some use cases where you must go with Angular. Ideally, what you should do, if the project is small, you must go with, you prefer to go with React, and application is major, it is a big project, then you should go with Angular. But again, now for most of the major projects also, React will work just great because of the other library support, right? So if you ask me what should I choose, I will say go with React. But again, it depends on the use cases. There may be some use cases where you must go with Angular, but for majority of the cases, you can prefer React. And another difference is React is easy to learn. React is easy to understand. Angular is not a JavaScript framework, it is actually a TypeScript framework, and TypeScript is a language. Right? What is TypeScript? TypeScript is superset of JavaScript. That means whatever JavaScript we write, it is a valid TypeScript, but there are some extra features in JavaScript, in TypeScript. For example, remember JavaScript is dynamically typed, right? But if you want to specify the type of the data, you cannot do it with JavaScript, but you can do it with TypeScript. That is the major feature of TypeScript on top of JavaScript. And there are some other features as well. But TypeScript, if we want to learn Angular, we must know some TypeScript as well, along with JavaScript, right? So React is also easy to learn, but that is secondary thing. Main thing is it is a library and it does not have strict rules. And also it has third-party library support. That is the major reason that we are using React, right? Earlier it was built inside Facebook, right? One Facebook developer created this React.js library for their own purpose, just for using it inside Facebook. But then they made it open source. What is open source? Open source simply means you can access the code of React on the GitHub or wherever it is placed. You can access it, you can download it, you can modify it according to your need, right? And you don't have to pay anything. You can directly access it, you can modify it. And if you think that there is a bug in this code, in the React code, or if you think that this I can improve or this feature I can add, you can also make those requests, right? And probably your feature gets added to React. That is also possible. Right? That is what the advantage of open source. software is, right? Now, it is widely used to build single page applications. Now, what is single page applications? Single page applications simply means there is only one file. For example, index.html. This is the only file that browser renders. And what we do, we attach our React application inside one HTML element of that index.html file. I will show you this in action. How it is single page, that I will show you. Right? But let's first understand the meaning of single page. Okay, so have you noticed that if you go to YouTube and if you go to any particular channel, so if you go to that channel, there will be so many tabs. First is maybe home, then videos, then third is playlist, then fourth is other channels, fifth is something, right? So these are different pages of that channel. Right? And if you go to each page, you will see your browser is not getting loaded. Right? Your browser is not refreshed at that time. That means you are accessing different page on a single page. You have only one page, and on that one page, you are accessing different pages. That is what the meaning of single page application is. It makes your application faster, right? Because now your browser is not reloading, and still you are visiting different pages. Understood? That is why it is called as single page application. And the last point is components. Right? React is all about components. What is component? Component is just, some portion of UI. It is just some portion of UI. If I show you an example, so let's go to a website, right? So for example, let's go to maybe EduNet Foundation. See here, this is EduNet Foundation, right? Now here, each piece of UI that you can imagine that can be a component. For example, this logo that you can see on the screen can be a component. This navigation bar can be a component. This button, home button can be a component. About button can be a component, right? Then this particular card, this particular UI part that you can see, this can be a component, right? This entire main section can be a component. Inside that, this about part is component. This description part is component. This thing is one component. Each of these thing is separately also one component, right? So you got the point, right? And in React, we focus on writing the components, right? What do we focus? We just focus on writing the component. Okay, we'll see how we can create components. Okay, but it is all about components. That is what you need to understand as of now. Right now, let's discuss about the features of React.js. Right, so React basically uses JSX. Right, what is JSX? So JSX is a structure. It is just like HTML, but actually it is not HTML. It is nothing but an extension to JavaScript. And if I say extension to JavaScript, then that means JSX is JavaScript only. So if I write here h1 hello, something like this. If I write something like this is HTML, you will say. But I can say this is JSX. It looks like HTML only, but it is not HTML, it is JavaScript. Right? So if you want to create h1, right? One way is you can write it in the HTML file like this, right? Second way, remember, we can also do this thing with a document object model, right? So we explored document.text content, document.inner HTML. Now this document has one more method, which is create element, right? So using JavaScript, you can create this H1. So what you need to write? You need to write document.create element, and in bracket, you need to write H1. Then you will write H1.text content is equal to hello. 2 lines of code you need to write. If you want to write H1, if you want to create H1 using JavaScript, 2 lines of code that you need to write. But if you use JSX, you can directly write like this. Now you tell me which is preferred, DOM manipulation or JSX? Which is easy? Of course, JSX. Right? That is why we prefer JSX. Now, JSX is not part of React. You will be shocked maybe, but yes, JSX is not part of React. First, what I decided is I will show you how without JSX you can write React. So our first application will be using pure React without JSX. Right? Have you heard about Create React app? How many of you have heard about Create React app? Yes. How many of you have heard about Create React app? Kiran ma'am, routing is nothing but navigating between 2 pages. For example, you have a website and you have 3 pages. For example, home page, contact us page, and about us page. Right? So when user clicks on about, you should show him about page. When he clicks on contact, you should show him contact page. Right? So this navigation between 2 pages, between different pages, is what is called as routing. Component means code block just so yes, exactly, Kiran ma'am. Exactly. Component means that only. See, there also that was a UI part. Navbar, card, button, and that is what I show you on the Edunet website also. So same component. Okay. I'll share the attendance link once again. No worries. Yes, so my original question was, have you heard about Create React app? How many of you have heard about Create React app? Yes, anyone? Create React app. Okay, no worries. I'll tell you what it is. See, generally we write our React applications, we create our React project using a tool chain. This is just a tool. Name is Create React app, right? But we can write React without Create React app also, right? Generally, learners don't know this, that we can write React without Create React app also. Right. So what I did for the first application, I'm not using any tool chain like Create React app. Using pure React, I'm going to show you how you can write React. Right. So that there will be clear in our mind that what exactly React is. People think that JSX is React, right? Create React app is React, but that is not the case. React is just a library, just like jQuery. In one HTML file, you can write your React application. That I will show you. But before that, let me first cover other theoretical concepts. JSX, we saw components, and yes, now virtual DOM. Remember, I told you that we are not going to touch document object model directly in the React. That is because of virtual DOM. That is because of virtual DOM. So what happens is, when you write some code, when you create component, right? React renders it on the browser. That is rendered on the browser. So basically what we are doing, we are manipulating the document object model only, but using React. right? So if we write React handles the updates on the page. React handles how it can update the document object model tree, right? And it does it using the concept of virtual DOM. So what happens is, just understand, just listen to me carefully. What happens is, when you write the component, it renders it on the screen. Now it is rendered. Okay. Now, if you make any changes to your component, what React does, React creates a new virtual DOM. First virtual DOM was created when it is rendering for the first time. I repeat again, when I write any component, right? So React create the virtual DOM. Virtual DOM is nothing but the copy of DOM, right? But which is handled and created by React. That is why we call it virtual DOM. So when it is rendered first, React will create the virtual DOM. Now, if you make any changes to your component, so what React will do? React will create another virtual DOM. React will create another virtual DOM, second virtual DOM. Right? Right now, it has not updated the actual DOM. It has not updated the actual DOM. Our main goal is to update the actual DOM, but yet it is not done by React. It created a second virtual DOM, right? Of course, with the new changes. Now, React will compare both the virtual DOMs, previous virtual DOM and new virtual DOM, and it will identify the changes. It will identify the updates, the changes. And once it is identified, then only that particular part will be updated in the actual DOM. Understanding? Only that particular part is getting updated. That is why using React, DOM manipulation is very fast. Because the only part that you are changing, only that particular part will be updated, not entire file, not entire component. Only that particular thing will be updated in the UI. Right? That is why we use React. That is one of the major advantage of React, because it has virtual DOM. Understood this? And this process of comparison between previous virtual DOM and new virtual DOM, this process is called as reconciliation. This process is called as reconciliation. Right? And it uses the algorithm called as diffing algorithm. Using diffing algorithm, which is a reconciliation process, React identifies the changes and updates the real DOM, actual DOM. I hope this is pretty much clear to all of you. Right? And finally, we have JavaScript expression. So as we were writing JSX, right? This is JSX. So inside this, you can also write JavaScript. For example, here I can write 5 plus 1. To write JavaScript expression, we can write only expression. Statement is not possible. You cannot write if-else statement in the JSX. You cannot write for loop in the JSX. You can write variables. You can write values in the expression. And how to enter JavaScript mode inside JSX? Using curly braces. Using curly braces, we enter into JavaScript mode, but that we will see in the action. Fine. I hope you got the basic idea of what React is. But the main thing that why we should use React, it is not still pretty much clear. We understood that React is based on components, so it's very easy to design website, to create website. It has JSX support. It has virtual DOM. These reasons we know, but we don't know yet the main reason of writing React, of using React. Right? But before that, first, I want to explain you this particular definition of React. Let's read this. React is extremely popular, declarative, component-based, state-driven JavaScript library for building user interfaces created by Facebook. Let's break down this into different part. We understood why React is popular. So let's move ahead and let's see the second part of the definition, which is declarative. Now, anyone knows what declarative approach is? For any programming language, there is declarative approach, there can be imperative approach, right? So any idea what declarative approach is? Anyone? Yes, Kiranam, exactly. Entire DOM is reconstructed for every changes, right? That is why that effects, that changes are slow as compared to React. Variables should be defined before usage. Okay. Okay. But I'm not talking about that declarative approach. Yes, whatever you said is right. But I'm talking about the approach, the programming paradigm. But Kiran ma'am, to add here, I'll say in JavaScript, you can, if you try to access the variables which are not yet declared, which are not yet initialized, you don't get any error. You don't get any error in JavaScript. And this concept is called as hosting. And definitely, if we get some extra time tomorrow is our last day of FDP. So after cloud computing, if we get some extra time, we'll definitely cover this hosting part. It is very interesting. It is very interesting how JavaScript works behind the scene, right? Concept of execution context. Have you heard this term? JavaScript runs inside execution context. I introduced JavaScript engine, right? So JavaScript engine looks in the execution context, but that is an extra thing. If we get time, we'll definitely cover hosting and execution context tomorrow. Okay, let's get back to declarative approach. Sorry. So see, in declarative approach, we specify what to do. In declarative approach, we specify what to do, but not how to do. How to do is going to handle by React. And if we compare declarative with imperative approach, so in imperative approach, we specify how to do also, right? That is what the difference between them. And how React is achieving declarative approach using JSX. The main idea for declarative approach, the main thing is JSX. See, in JSX, we are just writing like this, H1 hello, right? We are just telling React using JSX that we want this H1. But this is not HTML, right? This is not this is JSX. It must be executed further, right? So how it is getting converted into first from JSX to JavaScript? This is JSX. So how it will convert this to JavaScript? That we don't care. That is handled by React. That is why we can say React is declarative. We just told him that I want H1 with hello. However you want to handle it, you can handle it. How it will handle? Maybe document dot create element and we pass in H1, and then on this, let's say this was variable H1. So on this H1 dot text content hello. Behind the scene, it is going to be handled this way. Or there is another method also, which is there in React library. I'll explain you that as well, right? Which is react.create element. This is document.create element. React library also has the method react.create element. So it is actually converted into react.create element, but I will show you that. But the point is, you just write what to do. How to do will be taken care by React. Okay, I'll also show you the imperative approach in the pure React activity. This one, hello React with pure React. Here I will show you the imperative approach. Not exactly, not fully, but some part of it. Okay, so first is declarative, second is component based, which you already know. Then third is state driven. This is the key point that you need to highlight. And this is the most important part of today's morning session. State driven. Okay, so now I'll tell you why exactly we are using React. Right? We already have vanilla JavaScript. What was the need of React? We already had jQuery also. What was the need of React.js? Right? So there was a main challenge, and the challenge was sync between data and UI. See, data is everything. Data is going to change. Based on user action, data is going to change. Right? For example, let's say you are on a website, Make My Trip, right? And from map, you are exploring different locations. So let's say from map, you point to a location, right? So you change the data, right? You are the user. So based on your action, data is changed, right? So you changed the location of map, the point at map. So what your website should reflect, it should reflect all the necessary changes. For example, for that particular location, whichever hotels that are available, whichever adventures that are available, activities that are available, all should be updated, right? You just changed at one place, you just changed your map, and all these places should be changed. This is what the major challenge was. That is what the major challenge was. That when data changes, UI should be reflected. You changed in the map, then whatever UI that is dependent on them, right? Number of activities, number of hotels, list of hotels, images of hotels, right? Titles, everything. Everything should be changed based on your one single user action, right? So we changed the data and UI also got changed. But this was a major challenge before React, right? You need to write so many DOM manipulations, so many, which is you can consider ideally impossible. Ideally impossible because we are getting so major apps or these days, right? So many big applications, interactive applications are coming in the market these days. So to handle this thing, synchronization between data and UI using just pure JavaScript, using just pure DOM manipulation, it is ideally impossible, right? So this challenge was solved by React. React is solving this particular challenge. That is why we are using React, right? And whatever data that is going to change on the UI is called as state in the React. I repeat, whatever data that is going to change on the UI is called as state. For example, you are displaying time. I'll also show you this with action. Let's say you are displaying time. Now time will change every second. So time is data that is going to change every second, right? So the data that is going to change in the UI is called as state in the React. So from now on, I will not use data word. I will use state word. Okay. So React, what it does, it basically change the UI based on the data change. This is the major thing which is done by React. Not just React, all libraries and frameworks which are based on React. Not all libraries, but maybe all frameworks. For example, Angular is also solving the same problem, right? Vue.js, which is also JavaScript framework, it is also solving the same problem. Definitely, it will solve it with different way, right? In different manner. But the problem is same that these all frameworks are solving, right? So basically what happens, React reacts to data or to state. Now I'll be using state. So React basically reacts to state, right? Whatever data is changed by user action, React will react on that on that change, and it will update the UI, right? And that is why the name is React. Why this library is named as React? This is the reason, because React reacts to state. That is why this library is named as React. Understood, everyone? Why we use React? What is the major idea behind using React? Okay, thank you, Kiran ma'am, for confirmation. What about others? If you still have any doubts, please do ask. And generally, people know all other stuff why we are using React, but not the main stuff. Right? That is why I wanted to explain this with bit detail. Okay, now finally, we are lagging behind the time. I wanted to cover so many things in the morning session, but no worries. Let's finally write the React application. Okay, now I'll close this. Not required. Okay. So as I told you that without create React app, we can write React applications, right? So that is what I'm going to show you first, right? Generally, again, people starts directly with create React app, but to understand it behind the scene, how it works, I will first write with pure React without create React app and all those things. Okay. So see, I have one folder here called as clock application pure React. First, I will show you Hello World with React, and then I will build this small application. Right? Let's try to complete this before the lunch break. So see, here I have two files, HTML file and CSS file. So if I open HTML file, it is empty. Of course, it is empty. We are going to write it from scratch, right? Okay, so first I will generate my boilerplate code, and the title I will give log app your React. Okay, the reason I'm introducing this pure React way is that you can know that how behind the scene React works. That's the only reason. Yes, this pure React way seems difficult than create React app way, right? Definitely it is bit difficult, right? But I don't expect that you remember this or you fully understand this. Not required, because no one uses this way, right? But how behind the scene it works, to show you that I'm using this particular pure React way. If you don't want to write this pure React way along with me, that is absolutely fine. But when I introduce create React app way, that you can write it with me, right? This is completely optional part. Fine. So in the body, let's say I have one div with ID root. Now I will attach React. Now what is React? React is just a library. So we can attach React using CDN, just how we did it in case of jQuery, right? So CDN links, you can get it from the website, of course, right? But I already have them. So I will copy this and I can share it with you also, right? Was used in my school, sir, for updates of students detail. Okay, thanks for letting us know that you have used React somewhere, right? Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so this is the CDN link, right? So let me include those CDN links at the end of the body. So I attached both my CDN links and just format this. Yes. Okay, and after this both script, I can write my own script, my own JavaScript. React is nothing but JavaScript. Remember, I have one div with ID root. Okay. Now, what I will do, I will write one React component. Remember, React is all about component. So I will create one component. But what is component? Component is same as JavaScript function. Yes, component is same as JavaScript function. Before, in the older version of React, JavaScript function cannot be used as component. We were using class-based components. But if you write class-based components, it's very difficult to manage that, right? It's very difficult to understand that because if we are using class, then we need to use this keyword, and there are so many things, right? Then React introduced this simple way, function component. And nowadays, React is also encouraging us, it is also recommending us to use function-based components instead of class-based, right? And we are also going to focus the latest way of writing components, which is function-based components. So how you write JavaScript function? You write function, then you write function name like this. Like this you write, right? Now this I can say is a React component. Yes, JavaScript function is the React component now. So what's the difference between JavaScript function and React component? See, naming. In JavaScript function, we used to start with lowercase letter. But if I want to make it a component, I will start with capital letter. Only difference. Right? And second difference, yes, second difference we can say, not difference, but what we do in the React component is we return some piece of UI. From each component, some piece of UI will be returned. Right? For example, return h1 hello world, or let's write hello React like this. But can we write like this? We cannot, because this is script tag. I cannot write HTML in script tag. Now, if you are saying, if you are wondering that, sir, this is a JSX. Yes, this can be a JSX. But right now we are using pure React. That means we are not going to use JSX. Also, this is not going to work because we don't have any tool of converting JSX into JavaScript. Even if we write like this, it is not going to work. This is not a valid JSX. We don't have any tool to convert JSX to JavaScript. We are using pure React. So instead of writing like this, I must create the element using methods. So for that, I will write react.createElement. We have document.createElement that I show you, right? But we have react.createElement as well. This is also a JavaScript method, but which is defined in the React library, right? So see, this function, this component is returning one React element, right? So condition is fulfilled that React component must return a piece of UI, that is a React element, right? Which element I want to write? I want to write h1, right? Now the second argument is null. This argument is called as props, but props we are going to understand in the afternoon session. So I'm writing null here, right? Because there are no props. You can just imagine that there are no props. Okay. And now the third argument is the content of this h1. So what content I want to write? I want to write hello world. This is how you can create a React element. This is how you can create a React element. Now, what do you think if I run this file, will I be getting hello world in the browser? Let's check. So this is again just an HTML file. Let me open this with live server. We are getting nothing, right? Because remember I told you that on an index.html file, we will attach our React application. See, this is kind of our React application, kind of, right? But we are not attaching it with this index.html file. See, so what we will do in this div, I will attach my React application. I will attach my React application. Then only it is going to work. Okay. Now to attach that, and again, I'm repeating, no need to remember, no need to fully understand this code. Even if you are not getting it, that is absolutely fine. I also understand it is a bit difficult, right? And also you are learning React for the first time. So it is more difficult for you. I completely understand that. When I was learning, it was difficult for me as well, right? But we are not going to write React this way. No, we are not going to write it like this. This is just to show you that how React works behind the scene, right? And in future, in the afternoon session, when we are writing this with create React app, and then we write h1 hello world. So behind the scene, React will convert them into this particular line. Right? So we are directly writing this line just to show you how it works under the hood. Okay. Now let's attach this particular component with this div with ID root. Right? So for that, I'll just create one variable called root, and then I will use one method on the React DOM. So create root. This method I will call. Now, if you are wondering that here I was using React.create element, here I am using React.create element, there is confusion, right? So see, I included two script tags. If you have noticed, I included two script tags. One is React and another is React DOM. Now, why two? This is core React library. The first one is core React library. If you know, if you are aware that we can use React for mobile development as well. Have you heard about React Native? There also we can use React. So this React is a core library which is same in case of web application and in case of mobile application. Right? But this React DOM is specific to web application, and there must be some specific library for React Native as well. But this React is common. So if you know React, you can use React Native as well. You can learn React Native as well very easily. Right? So whatever component, whatever majority of the things that we are going to write is part of this core React library. Right? There are very specific things that are there in the React DOM. Right? So if you learn React well, you can easily switch to React Native also. Right? Now this create root method is specific to this React DOM library. So we are writing React DOM dot create root. And which element I want to specify as root? I want to specify this element. So how to target this element? You can write document.query selector, or you can write document.get element by ID method. And I'll specify the ID, which is root. Okay. Now I selected this root. Now on this root, I will render my app component. So I will write root.render, and again I will write react.create element, and I will pass app, because app is a component. Component is a React element, right? So I will write react.create element and I will pass in app here. Quite tricky, right? But again, I will repeat, no need to worry about this. No need to understand this fully, right? Because we are not going to write any of this code. Nothing. We are not going to write even single line of code from this, right? So what we did, we created a React component, which is returning a React element of h1. Then we created the root using create root method, and we specify that particular div with ID root. And on that, I'm just calling the render method. And what I'm rendering this app component. Okay, now let's check the output. And yes, congratulations for your first React application of Hello World. Yes, any doubts so far? Now I will just expand this application and I will create the clock application, but after lunch break. I wanted to cover it before, but no worries. We'll cover it after. Root is the parent class of document class. No. Root is just a variable. Root is just a variable. See here in this HTML, this div is with ID root. I gave this ID root. I can name it anything else. I can name it I1. So here, this is just a variable. Then you can change it to I1. Right? It has nothing to do with the root of document object model and all. Why I named it root and why it is a good practice is that because it is a root of React application. Your React application is rendering here. So it is a root of React application. That is why I preferred giving it ID root. And you will see at all places ID will be root only. Right? But that has nothing to do with those document object model structure. Okay, cool. So yes, now we are good to go for lunch break as you have no doubts. So